Hey guys, what's up? Sorry about that. Today is gonna be a IEM video because I was like, you know what? I made a blog post on Hashnode on my blog where I talk about like the IEMs that I recommend. And I thought, you know what, I might as well turn this into a video because that'll be a lot better than me just saying, oh yeah, buy these IEMs and not explaining why I think that way. So if I go onto my blog, nope, that's not what I wanted. Let me go onto my blog. This one. This one, okay. IEM Recommendations August 2022. Yep, that's literally what I'm going to title this video. IEM Recommendations for August 2022. Right? And if you guys want, you can read this in the description as well. And I basically say in my preface, I don't own all of the IEMs on this list, but I believe these are the best IEMs for their price bracket if you are just getting into the hobby and you're not sure what to buy and you're just like, oh, you want a decent IEM that is very versatile. You can play anything, any type of music with it, and it'll just work. That's why I say each IEM is the best in the price bracket for an average person. But if you want a specific IEM for bass, vocals, whatever, or you have a particular sound signature that you like, or you are just unsure, leave a comment down below on my blog post or on this video with your preferred sound signature, the situations you'll be listening with your IEM, to your IEMs in, like if you're gonna go outside, you're at your desk, in your home, moving about, stuff like that, and the type of music you listen to. So like the genre. And then I can try to like recommend an IEM that you should investigate and like look up and stuff like that. And then all the IEMs that I'm currently using are on my setup page, which is here. I'll also link this in the description. So the current IEMs I have is the Moondrop Aria, the Let's Show S12, and the Moondrop Blessing 2 Dusk. So let me just go into this and then I'll explain the IEMs that I currently have. So for 20 to 50 bucks, I would recommend buying the Moondrop Chew. So if you don't want to spend 50 bucks, so if you want to spend less than 20 bucks, there's no point getting any IEMs, just save up your money and wait until you can buy a Moondrop Chew. Now, if I open up squig.link, whoops, squig.link, I'm just going to pull up the Moondrop Chew's, Moondrop Chew. Moondrop Chew. Okay, this is the frequency response. Basically, you have bass, mids, treble, right? So this is like kind of V-shaped. Neutral is if it's like a flat line. The treble response, I'll explain it later. Basically, bass is where you'll hear all of those thumpy notes, thumpy sounds. Mids is where you'll hear vocals. Treble is where you'll hear like sparkly stuff and like timbre and stuff. I mean, treble is where you'll hear sparkly stuff like timbre and other stuff like that. So if you want a bass boosted IEM, you want to have something that's like a V shape. If you want a neutral IEM, you want something that's kind of like a straight line. If you want a dark IEM, which is, or dark headphones, this applies to headphones too, you want this treble section to kind of be like low. If I compare it to what was like a very shouty IEM, the S12, because I currently have that. Moondrop True versus the S12. This has a treble spike right here, right? So when you're listening to the S12, certain vocals will sound kind of forward and it will sound very sparkly. So it'll sound like brighter when you're listening to it, which may sound sibilant to some people. I enjoy it because I listen to most of the music that I listen to has female vocals, and that sounds very good with the treble emphasized IEM. It's still bass boosted because of this side here. It still has a bass boost and a mid bass boost. The mids are kind of tame, so you can still hear the vocals. It's just the treble region is a bit elevated, so when you're listening to female vocals, it'll sound a bit more elevated. Whereas for the Moondrop Chew, it's more versatile. If you don't listen to like lots of female vocals, I don't recommend buying a very treble heavy IEM. If you do listen to lots of female vocals, I do have some recommendations. Okay, so for the most like versatile IEMs you can get, these are the type of IEMs I would recommend. So there's the Moondrop True at 20 to 50 bucks, which is, let me just remove the S12. Moondrop True 20 to 50 bucks, pretty decent, right? Then you've got the Truth is X Clinical Zero. I'll probably update this video every time a new like IEM which like breaks my old list comes out, because the IEM space is very literally, it evolves all the time. So if I have the truth is, or this is the one for clinical. Now, if you guys don't know what the blessing two the moondrop variations are, this has a very similar tuning to the variations. If I just pull this up, so the treble and the mid frequency response is very similar to the variations. It's just that the actual bass response of the truth is zero isn't as close to the variations. I think the variation has 5 drivers, whereas the truth is zero has 2. Hang on. Truth is zero. Let me just look up. Yeah, it has a dual dynamic driver and an LCP composite diaphragm. I believe this is just 2 drivers, no? Configuration 10 and so yeah, it's a dual dynamic driver IEM. So because it doesn't have 2 drivers in the IEM, it can't faithfully reproduce the same bass response as the variations, but it's very close. Technicalities wise, the variations will still blow it out of the water, but based on just tuning, this is probably the closest you can get to the variations tuning without EQ. EQ I'll talk about later. Okay, so next up is the 7 Hz clinical Dioko. Let me bring up the Dioko. This is another IEM tuned by Clinical. I'm not a Clinical show. His tuning is like the basic tuning that lots of people will enjoy. That's all. If you enjoy like a bass boosted type of tuning, which is basically the Harman target, which is IEF neutral, there's a whole thing. Basically, Clinical has his own frequency response. So you see this like this line here, this dotted line, that's basically what a reviewer believes is neutral to them. So when they hear an IEM, if it has this type of frequency response that follows this type of line, they believe that it's neutral to their ears. Clinical's one, the actual graph will look the same in most databases. It's just that with Clinical's one, because he uses IEF neutral, his IEF neutral target frequency response is already bass boosted because he enjoys the Harman target, and lots of people find issues with that, which isn't really an issue. It's just lots of people enjoy that tuning. So because lots of people like Harman, which is just bass boosted, people don't validate his opinion that, oh, this is like a good IEM or whatever. It's complete nonsense. But either way, most of the IEMs that Clinical have a bass boost. That's why if you let me put up one of his like egregiously bass boosted ones. Eclipse. This is like egregiously bass boosted to the point where it kind of like delves into the sub bass, and he says that it doesn't muddy the sub bass. I believe it does. That's why I don't recommend this IEM, even though like it's a little bit more expensive than the Dioko. But if you're going to spend more, I have a different recommendation. Anyway, for $100 to $200, the like cheapest IEM that you can get that has similar technicalities to all of the IEMs in that price bracket will probably be the Dioko. It's a it's a single planar IEM, and it's from 7 Hz, who released the Timeless. It's a really good IEM. I recommend it. It's just that the fit is kind of big, and I don't enjoy like big fitting IEMs. The only one that is like that I can stomach and actually use is the Blessing to Dusk, which I'll talk about later. But this is like a very big fit, and it has a similar fit to the variations. I don't have the variations here, but because the fit is similar to most normal IEMs, you could probably be okay wearing it. It's just that the Yoko has like a very large faceplate on the side, so lots of people might not enjoy wearing such a big IEM. That's why I didn't list it here, but the IEM that I use in that price bracket, let me talk about the IEMs that I use in the $50 to $100 price bracket. Actually, in $50 to $100, £100, I use the Moondrop Blessing, and not the Moondrop Blessing, the Moondrop Aria. I do not recommend buying this IEM. I recommend buying the Clinical Zero, because this IEM, even though it is tuned to Harman target like most Moondrop IEMs, this IEM and most Moondrop IEMs have a filter issue. The only one that I do know doesn't have a filter issue is the Blessing 2 Dusk and the Blessing 2. And that's because they don't actually need a filter. This does need a filter, and most of the time the filter gets clogged very easily, and you'll need to change the filter. the Moondrop Blessing 2 and the Blessing 2 Dusk also come with filters, but there's no point in wearing them. The IEM, like literally everybody doesn't wear the Blessing 2 or Blessing 2 Dusk with filters because the filters just keep coming off, and your ears can't clog up the Blessing 2 enough for it to drastically affect the frequency response. With the Arias, however, they will affect the frequency response to the point where I believe it is the right side of my Arias now, where literally I can barely hear anything without raising the volume to 100%. Which is why I do not recommend the Arias. If you do want to get something a little bit more expensive than the Critical Zero, I recommend the Duino Titan S. It has better build quality. The tuning on the Duino Titan S and the Aria is different though, so hang on. Titan S, Aria. Okay, so the Aria is bass boosted and has more tame treble, whereas the Duino Titan S is still bass boosted, but people like to say that it's more neutral sounding. So and that's why I just recommend the Duino Titan S, because they are both basically bass boosted and they both sound fine. Super Reviews, who made the frequency graphs for these and uploaded this frequency graph, he, as you can see, he hears that this is like very close to neutral. That's why lots of people say that this is neutral, not just because of his opinion, but because lots of people believe that to be neutral. I still believe that it's bass boosted if it doesn't have like a completely flat bass. So if the mids and the bass are basically like on the same level, I'd assume it's flat, like literally flat. And I believe that this is bass boosted because the mids and the bass is elevated above the mids, that's all. Because if you bring up the Etymotic ER2SE, this is flat because literally the bass is underneath the mids. That's what you call flat. The Duino Titan S is not flat, it's just a different mix. I would enjoy the Duino Titan S better. I don't have it, but it has a better build quality than the Aria. What else was I gonna say? There's the Aria Snow Edition, which lots of people like a lot more, and I believe that they like it, and I'm just speculating, because if you remove the Aria, the normal Aria tuning, the Aria Snow Edition is literally tuned similar to the Duino Titan S. So if you're getting the Aria, if you want to get IEM that's more expensive than the Soundnet Zero, the Truth is Zero, and you're like, oh, you just want to get a little bit more expensive, but you don't want to pay for the Yoko, you should just get the Duino Titan S, because the Aria Snow Edition literally just has a different paint job, so the paint won't chip off like with the Aria, like it won't bubble, but you still have the same filter issue. And because the filters on most Moondrop IEMs are really bad, I would just recommend getting the Duino Titan S instead. But yeah, I still recommend saving your money and just getting the Truth is X Chronicle Zero, or just getting the Dioko. If you don't want to spend that money to get the Dioko, and you just want to get like a bog standard IEM that's better than the Truth is Zero, get the Duino Titan S. Do not be me. Do not get the Moondrop Aria. And that's what I wanted to say. What else was I going to say? Okay, so then I started talking about the Yoko, the 7X Chronicle Yoko. This IEM, as I was saying before, is basically V-shaped. It's going to suit most libraries. There was an issue with there being a defect with one of the filters, but that was rectified a while ago actually. But with the normal Dioko, now there's no filter issue, so it should be fine. But with Dioko now, it will ship with normal filters, with proper filters that are up to spec. If I do post op, there we are. It should be okay. It does have this treble spike, but I have the Let's Show S12, and it's a little less bass boosted. It has more mid forwardness. It has more sub bass and mid forwardness, and I believe the treble is just a bit more tame. I enjoy the S12. I know most people enjoy the Dioko just because it's a little more V-shaped, but your mileage may vary. If you mainly listen to female vocals, I recommend going for the S12. If you don't really listen to female vocals, and the majority of the library you listen to has male vocals or EDM, techno, whatever like that, I'd recommend going for the Dioko because the bass hits harder in the Dioko. Sub bass and vocals hit better in the S12, and female vocals sound a lot better in the S12. That's just my opinion. Just looking at the graph. Obviously, if you would like to send the Diokos to me or give me enough money to buy the Diokos myself so I can review them, that would be great, but I'm just basing this on the graph. You can tell a lot about the graph. It's just the spatial awareness and the technicalities that you can't base off the graph. But according to other reviewers, the technicalities on the S12 are a little better than the Dioko. It's just that both the S12 and the Dioko are both planar IEMs. So, and for a similar price, I believe the S12 when I bought it was going for £110. The Dioko was going for 100. So if you can't get the S12 for under 120, go for the Dioko. If you can get the S12 for under 120 or around 120, get the S12, because the S12's MSRP is 150, but I got it on discount, so I went, you know what, I'm just buying the S12. But yeah, then we have 200 to 300 pound range. Now the only IEM that I would actually recommend in this range is the Timeless, and that's generally because under the 300 pound range, the Timeless blows everything else out the water. It has a good bass response, has good mid bass response. It represents vocals very decently, and then with the treble area, yes, there is this peak, but with most planar IEMs you'll see this peak. So if I pull up the S12, the Rapgo Hook X, I don't know if he has a Rapgo Hook. If I pull up the what was it, there's a tin hi-fi, I think it's the P1 Max. Yeah, P1 Max. And then there is I can't remember, but most planar IEMs do have this peak. The Dioko's one is egregiously bad, but just looking at the IEMs, all the planar IEMs under 400, I'm not sure about above that range, but under 300, 400 pounds, most planar IEMs do have this weird peak in the treble. You may notice it, you may not. I find it okay because most of the music that I listen to is mainly has female vocals, so it's fine for me. But yeah, I recommend just buying the Timeless if you don't want to spend over £300. Timeless will probably be the best IEM you can get under £300. Just simple as. No IEM can compete in terms of technicalities against the Timeless. Tuning wise, there could be other IEMs that could compete. Like, that's just generally IEMs can compete with the Timeless based on tuning. You might want an IEM with more bass response, mid bass, mid range, or treble response, or you want an IEM with better treble response and more tame treble response. An IEM could beat the Timeless in that regard, but just based on technicalities, there's no IEM that can beat the Timeless. That's why most of the IEMs that I am suggesting are probably like the best IEM in their price range based on technicalities and price, because this is these IEMs are the cheapest IEM you can get that go on par with other IEMs in the same price bracket while offering the same technicalities. Then we have the Moondrop Blessing 2 and the Moondrop Blessing 2 Dusk. Blessing 2 and Blessing 2 Dusk. Now, you guys might be saying, oh, why am I recommending an IEM like this? Why am I recommending two IEMs in a price bracket instead of just one? Well, simple answer is they're basically the same. The way I see it, the Blessing 2 is just, okay, so the Blessing 2 came out first and the Blessing 2 Dusk came out. The Blessing 2 is a very neutral IEM. The closest thing you can get to Harman neutral. Harman is still bass boosted, but Harman neutral is like, okay. Harman neutral is like neutral if you assume that Harman neutral is neutral. The Dusk just has a bass boost. That's it. Same tuning everywhere else, just the Dusk has a bass boost. It also has the mid bass pulled a bit back, but I don't know if that's because of the bass boost that Clinical applied here or something else, but I'm assuming that because he raised the bass here, he pulled back the mid bass so that it would so it wouldn't like have bass bleed into the vocals. That's just my assumption. But I personally have the Dusks because I like bass. So I have the Dusk with the waifu edition, literally just Kryn slapped on there as a girl. That's all. I like the Dusk. Why did I get the one engraved with Kryn as a waifu? I don't know. I just wanted to. Anyway, the actual like tuning of the IEM doesn't change based on the engraving. I just wanted to get it with the engraving. Simple as. What else? Then we've got 500 to under 1,000. The best IEM to get is the Moondrop Variations. This is the IEM that I want to upgrade to. Moondrop Variations, basically the best IEM you can get. Under sub $1,000, sub £1,000. This is the best IEM you can get for technicalities and vocals. If I put it up against the Blessing 2 Dusk, the Dusk has less bass. Well, it has more mid-forward vocal forwardness, and the treble is the same. Most Moondrop IEMs have similar treble. Put up against the S12. S12 has more tame bass than the Variations and the Blessing 2, but again, this treble peak makes vocal sound kind of sparkly. I enjoy the S12's tuning. I know lots of people they might find it sibilant, but you know what? It's just your preference, isn't it? But yeah, the next IEM that I want to upgrade to is the Variations. I do want to eventually have... I really just want to like... Okay. Let me finish my rankings and then go on. Then the last one, which is just endgame for me, is like, once I get this, I know that I can just quit the hobby, is the Monarch Mark II. Monarch Mark II. This is a £1,000 IEM. Tax on this is going to be insane. But it has better resolution than the Variations. I believe the Variations have better tuning though. Just that the Variations are very like literally as close to Harmon Target as possible. So yeah, Variations have more mid bass. They have pullback vocals, and then the treble is a bit higher on the Variations, but it can't beat the 3-audio Monarch Mark II in terms of technicalities. That's all. So if you want to make a blind purchase on the IEMs that you would want that fit anyone's taste based on purely technicalities, these are the best IEMs to get based on technicalities for their price point. That's all. If you want a specific IEM for tuning a specific type of music that you listen to, or something like that, or you know that you listen to a specific type of music, please leave a comment down below the type of music you listen to, the specific sound signature you like, and I'll give you a recommendation. In terms of what I would recommend getting cheaper IEMs and trying to figure out your preferred sound signature. I just recommend this if you just want to buy a good IEM and just have it, keep it for the rest of your life. You can just buy one of these IEMs and you literally know you never have to upgrade. I just like having the choice. The Oreos are literally just if I'm on the go or I'm doing something like exercising or something. I used to not exercise with these, but because they're basically crapped out on me, I now use these for exercise. And because I have them connected to the FIO UTWS3. Don't get me started on DAC amps. Basically, my opinion on DAC amps is they do not affect sound. The effect they have on frequency response is so minuscule that there is no point accounting for it in the first place. I don't believe there is any effect that DAC amps have on an IEM at all, really. Just getting the cheapest one you can get. That doesn't like affect the sound of your IEM. If you have very sensitive IEMs, you might want to get a DAC amp that supports the sensitivity of your IEMs. There's a really good calculator online. Headphone. All this does is you take the sensitivity of the IEMs that you have, or headphone or whatever, you plug it in, headphone impedance of the IEM, so in ohms, and then the loudness, and then it'll tell you how much power your IEM would require to run. That's all. Right? Alright. What else can I tell you? Dark amps don't affect sound. Dark amps effect on sound is minuscule. Oh, why did I get the IEMs that I have? The Aria, because I first had a KZ, ZST X or something. Then I was like, I want to upgrade, so I got the Moondrop Aria, and I gave my ZST X to my dad. No, wait, hang on. I got the Aria. Then then after a little while, I bought the Blessing Tree Dusk because I was just there like, you know what, I want to get an endgame IEM. This is currently endgame for me. Of course, if I get the variations or the Monarch Mark II, cool. But I'm probably not going to buy these with my own money unless someone like gifts them to me or I get sponsored to do a video or something. Like, yeah, 500 coming out of that account will probably like make me cry. So unless I get sponsored or someone gives them to me or sends them to my address, I'm not going to do it. But yeah, Blessing to Dusk. And this is probably going to be endgame for me just because I enjoy the tuning so much. Like, I use these whenever I can. But after I got these, I was like, you know what? I'm not using my ZST X's anymore, so I just gave this to my dad. And he let them stand somewhere. That's why I use my Arias with the Fio UTOS 3. But ever since one of the IEMs just crapped out on me, I started using the Lecture S12s, just connected over USB. Honestly, the connection issues with the Fio UTWS 3 is really funky, and it doesn't really connect to my phone as much as I would like it to, which is why I just don't use these as often. Whenever I'm going out and stuff, I just reach for the S12s. And because these are bass boosted anyway, and I believe they're more bass boosted than the Aria. And then the S12. The Aria, the S12, let me just remove the D13. I don't know why, but this is a more enjoyable listen than the Aria. Anyway, I don't recommend the Arias at all. If you want to like buy the IEMs that I've talked about today, I'm not going to leave any links to the IEMs. Honestly, find them yourself. I don't want to do anything like, oh, I'm giving you a link and that, and then something happens and stuff like that. Just find the IEM that you like and see what works for your preference. I do not recommend buying an IEM purely based on my opinion. Do some research on the type of tuning you like, do some research on IEM, see if there's any QC issues and stuff like that. Honestly, if it were me, I would buy very cheap IEMs with similar tunings. You're not going to get like 1-1 tunings on this IEM is going to be exactly the same, but you can get a bass boosted IEM, a neutral IEM, and a dark IEM, a bright IEM, stuff like that, and just play around with, okay, you like this, you like this, you like this, whatever. Once you find a tuning that you vibe with and you're like, yeah, I really like this tuning, then go back to looking at the graphs of other IEMs and be like, okay, cool, I want to buy this IEM because you have reasons for it. I bought the Aria because I was like, I enjoyed the bass boost on the KZ. Then I got these and we're like, it's not as bass boosted, but I enjoy this more because the bass is a lot more tame on the Aria. Then I got the Blessing 2 Dusk purely because of technicalities, because the Blessing 2 Dusk has better technicalities than the Aria. Then once these cracked out on me, I got the S12s. Now, if you were to compare these two, lots of people will tell you, oh, get the Aria because bass is better on the Aria. Hands down, bass is better on the Aria, and treble is less peaky sibilant on the Aria. But I do not recommend the Aria at all. I recommend getting the Soundlet Zero. I mean, not the Soundlet Zero, the Truth is Zero instead of the Aria. I got the Let's Show S12. 1, because the Dioko wasn't out yet, and 2, the Truth is X Chronicle Zero wasn't out yet either. But the S12 is a lot better when you consider the type of music that I listen to. So I enjoy female vocals more, so I would want an IEM that has more treble presence and more vocal presence than an IEM with more bass presence. That's why both of these IEMs, hang on, the Dusk and the S12. Dusk, purely on technicalities. This, purely on vocal presence. And then the Aria, well, I take it outside sometimes because purely it is a bass monster and it has like decent tuning for something that has a lot of bass. That's all. Again, if you have a specific IEM, or like not even a specific IEM, a specific IEM you want me to review or talk about or something like that, I'll do it on video. I'll talk about what I think about the IEM, stuff like that. Obviously, I'm going to be comparing it to one of these. If you feel like that's unfair, well, unless I get money to like buy another IEM, I'm probably just going to be comparing it against one of these. But yeah, if you want to sponsor me so that I can indulge in my IEM addiction, please do. So that I can review other IEMs. I really enjoy the IEM hobby, and I feel like lots of people should get into it. Just that there are really good IEMs, and until you start like dabbling in the IEM space, you won't really know what's a good sound signature or like good for the money. If you just compare it to like normal IEMs that you, earbuds that you get from like a dollar store or something. I mean, like Poundland or something. I don't know why I said dollar store. I'm British. Anyway, but yeah, sponsor me and fill my IEM addiction. If you like the video, please like the video. If you dislike the video, please dislike the video and comment down below what you want me to improve and how I can improve to make your viewing experience better. Subscribe to the channel, and if you have any type of content that you want me to do in the future related to IEMs and stuff like that, please leave a comment down below. But yeah, other than that, have a nice day. Peace.